Welcome to the bold analysis. Kenyans must question more than clap when leaders issue directives. Those are the words of communication expert and political analyst MULUKA, a man who made a U-turn and is on record telling the duty bearers that they are a rogue regime, a gangster regime. So in this podcast, I want you to look at what he's telling the population. On Saturdays and Sunday, we pick most. We try to get what the columnists are saying, what the opinion shapers are telling the nation, because it's part of agenda creating. And so this is the article where MULUKA is talking to the population and is telling the nation what they need to do. Kenya is an emphasizing clapping nation. Our propensity to clap speaks of abused people who will even apologize for those who abuse them. And is saying our people seem to be on perpetual looking out for opportunities to clap. Well, the clap is probably a tool of easing the tension, especially when you are talking, when the leaders are talking, but the population is simply giving the big boys easy time. And he has raised some pertinent issues about it is time for the public to stop clapping and react. They need to think about clapping because they're just clapping for everything. And I want us to look at these two instances. During the tree planting exercise in Murang'a yesterday, the president was addressing a group of some women and people, just members of the community, that had turned up for that exercise. And I want to listen to this speech here.
Tumekubaliana kila mtu apande miti 50 jameni. Mtanisaidia kupanda miti 50 kila mmoja wenu? Mimi naona kuna watu hapa hawajafikisha 50. Wale watu hawajafikisha 50 wekeni mkono juu. Sasa nyinyi bado iko masaa. Mnaona saa hii ni saa 7. Itatusaidia kuajiri vijana. Tuko na program hiyo ya digital jobs ambayo nimetoka asubuhi ya leo, na tutahakikisha kwamba isikue Nairobi, Kiambu peke yake, pia ikuje mpaka Murang'a. Tuko pia na program ya export of labor ambayo tumepanga ili vijana wetu wapate ajira, wapate pesa, wajisimamie na wajenge uchumi wa taifa letu la Kenya wakilinda familia zao. So tumeshirikiana namna hiyo. Hata hao wabunge nimewaambia tumewapatia pesa sasa, kila mjumbe, hata huyu wa maua asikie. Mary, wewe Mary sikia. Tumekubaliana na huyu Maria wenu ya kwamba hapa Maragwa kila ward tunajenga ICT hub. Kila ward. Pale akijenga ICT hub, mimi nalete kompyuta. Mimi naweka mtandao. Mimi nalete waalimu. Ndio tufundisha hawa vijana hawa wote mambo ya digital jobs. Na tayari tuko na kazi ambayo hawa vijana watapata wakifanya hiyo training ya ICT jobs. Vijana wa hapa Iganjo, mko tayari? Mko tayari? Mtajipanga? Huyu wa maua afanye hiyo kazi na mimi nifanye ile imebaki. Na tukiweka mtandao hapa mtafinya hiyo kompyuta. Si umesikia tunafinya kompyuta alafu dola inaingia kwa mfuko ama mbona mnakaa kama network hamjapata? Mko nayo? Stima ndio shida. Haya, nitapanga mambo ya stima. Wewe maua. Tayari katika budget yetu niko na pesa ya stima ya kusambaza stima.
I listened to that and I think that is a bit insulting, or rather a bit disrespectful to our mothers. I don't just understand how would go to start telling the mothers and there were people in the villages there about, we are bringing you computers, you will finya na utaleta dollar. And if you want to realize, it didn't go all, it didn't augur well with those who attended that. They were telling him power. He was talking about taptembele, kufinya computer na kutoa dollar. And he was telling them about, and the people said, we want power. I have also seen, and that is just one instant of, he's speaking of what the population is hearing, and they're telling him something different. If you scroll through in the social media, you will find clips where the president is talking about Mambo di Matatu, and people are clapping. I've realized even in this channel, some people have been asking, what are they clapping for? Why exactly are they clapping? So that is what Barack MULUKA is saying. Stop clapping, just redact it. Some of those directives are just crap. So what are you clapping for? Now the second example, and I think that is the one that Barack MULUKA has issued, as mentioned here, is the statement on school resumption, reopening.
All parents are advised on the assessment of weathermen and on the assessment of the government of Kenya. It will now be safe, and we have made adequate arrangements. We have asked members of parliament, and we have provided resources through the NGCDF for repair of classrooms and other facilities, learning facilities across Kenya, and therefore all schools will be opened on Monday next week, and therefore parents must prepare their children to go to school. Tumekubaliana kama serikali ya kwamba kwa sababu wale weathermen wametuambia ya kwamba sasa mvua itazidi na kwenda chini, na hatutaki watoto wetu wakose nafasi pia ya term ya kusoma. Ningependa kutangaza ya kwamba shule zetu zote za Kenya zitafunguliwa Jumatatu ijayo. Nataka munisikize tena kwa makini. Nataka munisikize kwa makini. Mimi nimesema kila boma ambayo tumehamisha hapa, tumeandika majina yenu, na tutahakikisha ya kwamba wale walikuwa wanaishi hapa, kila boma, kila nyumba, tutawapatia pesa ya kutafuta mahali ya kurent for the next 3 months, wakati serikali inapanga vile mambo yenu itashughulikiwa. So every household of the 40,000 households that have been displaced in Nairobi County, every household is going to be paid 10,000 shillings so that they can find alternative accommodation as we plan for their future as a government, so that every Kenyan has a home and a place to call home. Tumeelewana? Na nimesema hiyo
These two videos, one he's talking in Mathare, saying the 10K pledge for the victims, and another one, back while meeting some leaders in State House, he was also mentioning about school reopening. And I've decided to use these two examples. The other one, people are clapping to the tail end, some few people around him. Then this one, it is the leaders then clapping in State House. Now, Barack is saying this, that there seems to be a little, one authority says one thing and the other one says something else. Rather than burst into applause, we should return to our thinking chambers to wonder about what is happening. He's saying, and he's giving an example, while the president is talking about school reopening, the CS was speaking something different, and people are clapping. Now the MPs, while the government has just made a statement of schools reopen, and people are supposed to clap and marvel, but they are pertinent questions. As we speak, some schools are still marooned in water. Homes were swept away, and people even moved to some shelter camps, some makeshift camps. Women and children staying there with their families. Even some families even separated because of this, so they had to be swept away. In some areas like Maimahiu, there are those who are still looking for their loved ones, and their kins who were swept away by the water. Of course, those are not many. Now, schools have also been swept away. Even desks and books are lacking. How are some students going to commute to school, and what is the safety? The ministry has said, the president has said MPs should go and rebuild those schools and issued those orders that they should use the CDF money. Do you know that MPs are still really entangled in war of words with the treasury because the CDF money has not been released fully? So where is even the money? Now, even MPs that are clapping when they're being ordered to go and rebuild schools destroyed by floods is part of the team that Barack MULUKA is addressing. And look at the 10K. He's saying the 10,000 shillings that have been given to those families doesn't mirror someone giving you because of the disaster, because you've been affected by the floods. The floods have just displaced people, and lives have to be reorganized. That those who are just working some small, like these people who are now staying in camps, while they were in the estates, they were doing some small businesses. So life has been disrupted fully. People are simply starting from zero. Then, those who are supposed to help comes and says, because you've been displaced, I'm giving you 10,000 so that you get alternative settlement. Now, if that was it, the 10,000 for you to be given to move did not need floods. That compensation doesn't mirror someone who has been affected by the floods. And that is the rationale, that while the public are clapping, people are clapping, that money is not even enough in the first place. And someone will ask, what then should we do? I'm going to answer that question. And remember when he said about what he said about the gangster regime?
Yes, beings who are going to have conversations with serpents and do terrible things. So what is the context here? It is a rogue regime, and it should be called what it is. Someone talked some years back about a bandit economy, but we can talk today about a gangster regime. And when you have a gangster regime, it doesn't matter that people may put on three-piece suits, live in ornate and plush environments in suburbia, Nairobi and in other places, or drive instead of the art cars, or put on watches that are worth 10 million shillings. Nobody spends 10 million earned shillings on a watch. Nobody. It must be stolen resources. Nobody splurges the kinds of resources that you have seen in the papers today on a seat, on a chair for their office. So we are talking about a rogue regime, a kakistocracy. If we should speak like scholars, a kakistocracy, government by the worst elements of society possible. Their focus is not on the welfare of the country or on the welfare of the people. They are on a splurge ego trip mission, thinking that they are leading the good life, what I have called the 10-star good life. But it is a rat race to nowhere. The clergy are saying here that you are pauperizing the country. what needs to be done is to give context to this whole thing so that we understand why it is that when somebody is selling stones to farmers out there and donkey waste blended with those stones and calling it fertilizers, and they are not arrested, I haven't heard of anybody being brought to book. It is because the entire thing is an organic system that is just functioning the way it should be. So that is where we are, and we must ask ourselves whether it's going to be possible to get out of that space or not. You see, a gangster is a gangster. Many times when we talk about gangsters, we think about some bandits in some forest somewhere, in rags, in torn attire, in rough linen. We don't think about people who look like what Amos Tutola would call complete gentlemen, who are in three-piece suits with extra pieces in their pockets, and who furnish lavish living and lifestyles. But those are bandits, they are gangsters. And so we are talking about a gangster government, a gangster regime, and that's why we are where we are. And we must call it what it is by its name. And as I have said, those of us, in whatever way and to whatever extent, that may have contributed to the bringing of this bandit regime into power, owe this country an apology.
All right, they owe this country an apology.
That is Barack MULUKA. That instead of Kenyans just looking at it, he continues to say, if the floods are considered a national disaster, their management does not reflect that thinking, for a national disaster is equal to a country at war. This is where trained, disciplined forces are brought in to help the rest. A national disaster team under disciplined uniformed command is the right outfit to clear and rebuild roads and bridges. They will even know how disciplined they will even know how to resettle displaced populations in quickly constructed, dignified temporary shelters. They are equipped to put up temporary functional camps and basic comfort conveniences. From what he's saying, we are clapping at things that have been done, and the administration is out in the rallies praising their leaders and the governors about MPs praise the deputy president for doing this, I'm praising the governor for doing this, but if you look back, do you know 20 billion was set aside for disaster response? And then what we've only been seeing, apart from buying food, which most of it had also been donated by some development partners, government itself set aside 20 billion. Then the development partners pumped in some other cash. We saw another UAE, a government of UAE giving 2 million. Is it 2 million US dollars? So, and there are those who have also given food. Literally, some companies also just giving some food stuff. Some even offering to give mattresses. But people tend to clap. He's saying this. Attempting the bandit system, not that, he's saying. Instead, families are being commanded to move to a known higher ground and prepare to go back to school on Monday. And someone is clapping. Are our heads right? Maybe no. What do you think should be done? And I want to absolve the population from this blame, because the population have limited, avenues of having a two-way discussion. They have limited avenue. I want to blame some representatives and people who also should pursue the public interest. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our videos. Thank you very much for your support and thank you very much for supporting this channel. Number one, the media reporting should move from direct reporting of verbatim what he said. The president said, I'm giving them 10,000. The deputy president said, I'm going to give 300,000. So and so said, I'm going to build houses. I think we should interpret news. We should interrogate. For example, people have been moved from their places. They have been swept away by the floods and they are in camps. Then in a press briefing, a state officer is saying, we are going to reopen schools. Then it should go to, you ask, how about those who are there? Now, even when you do your reporting, we should have the twofold on what has been said and what is the statistics, what is possible, what is the problem. Now, if you explain the two problems, when you are saying the president given 10,000, then you leave that rally and go to a house and interview someone who was actually displaced and he tells you the bigger part of the problem. He will tell you about how my schools, my children cannot go to school, I've lost this, I used to do my business there. Then the public will judge. Has that 10,000 that has been promised really enough to sort Wanjiku? So I think we in this space, we are also not doing it fair. We're also not being fair to the population because the population may not be able to interrogate. When you come back in the office, you must find out, okay, we're going to settle 40,000 people, so we're only going to give them 10,000 shillings. Take 40,000 times 10,000 shillings. That is, you add 40,000 times 10,000. Those are how many zeros? Those are, that is 400 million, if I'm not wrong. 40,000 times 10,000. Those are 8 zeros. That is 400 million. So out of 20 billion, 400 million has gone to Kibera. 400 million only has gone to Mathare to settle, to give people cash, to do cash transfer. Then from there, you go to another place, maybe another 20, so and so. So even realize just cash transfer itself has only costed even 1 billion. Then food and the other can give even 2 billion. Then you ask, where is the rest? Then you will understand why we are even able to give more than 10,000. By the way, when Kalonzo was saying, let's do 100, I didn't take it. I criticized him, but I think he's making sense. It should even be 50. Nothing stops us from doing 50. If anything, we are going to put money into circulation. Number two, the parliament, which is the representative of the people, must question the executive without prejudice. That is their role. They're being ordered to rebuild the schools. They should ask, where is the money? Yes, let them not just rush asking for bursary, asking for it when it is bursary. Because bursary, parents are going to queue into constituency offices and take photos and be given lectures before they're given those bursaries, as if it is a privilege. Well, it is just their taxes. So that is a very interesting bit. Number three, I think the public can also show displeasure on these pronouncements. I'm saying displeasure. If you look at what disapproval, when those attendees, the people who attended that rally in Muranga were being told about those computers and laptops and all that, they said power, steamer. And by the way, in Muranga, hey, there is a place that I can't know. I remember, I think I got it. In the comment section here, someone was saying there's a place that they've been off power for the last 3 weeks. And no one even cares. So you understand the problem. I think, I've always said, don't heckle. That's my position. Don't heckle. If you have to go to heckle, no, don't heckle, because plainclothes officers are always planted there with all the intelligence team. So you never know who can land on you. But if you can walk away, How about if you can say what is your problem, like what the other women say? Our problem is not those computers, our problem are roads. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my take. I think I really welcome that position by Barack Muluka.